Wednesday, and the action picks back up. We're back in court. Jersey College responds. They file their first brief in appellate court. So what happened? Becoming a nursing professional is a rigorous commitment to providing essential health care. Calling it elective minimizes the daily reality of healthcare workers who are notoriously overworked, underpaid, and undervalued. For many, higher education or specialized trade schools are not an optional hobby, as one would like us to believe. They are a calculated, stressful necessity to secure a livable wage, healthcare benefits, a stable future, and in this case, to take care of the community at large. An essential service equals, to me, literally something that society cannot function without. You can't have a doctor without a nurse, and you can't have a nurse without a doctor, etc. You need the whole team to really deliver that care. I don't think society can function without nurses or healthcare staff in general. There is nothing optional about the work LPNs, RNs, BSNs, MSNs, nurse practitioners even do on the front lines of care. And I'm really starting to get the feeling these guys don't like me, because one thing I picked up from the brief was, quote unquote, a stark departure from that settled law, inverting bedrock principles. This is classic legal posturing and framing at its finest. When corporate lawyers, for example, lose a ruling, they don't say, the judge disagreed with us. They claim the judge basically destroyed the entire foundation of the American legal system, is what I'm picking up. They are so dramatic. They lose one round of Monopoly to a girl and suddenly the world can never recover. Like, what are you actually talking about? I feel like they're trying to convince the higher appeals and the public that the judge went rogue. This should have never happened. What will we do? They go on to say, and I quote, sweeping consequences for arbitration agreements in higher education, end quote. There's more to that, but this is what I wanted to touch on. This is the quiet part said out loud. To me, they're admitting that if this one group of students successfully breaks the contract and bypasses arbitration, it creates a precedent. It acts as a beacon for thousands of other nursing students across the country to stand up, reference this case, and tear down other schools' forced arbitration agreements too. This isn't just about me, ladies and gentlemen. This is about all nursing students at large. This is about all nursing students who were prevented from taking their NCLEX solely due to an exit exam. And it gets worse. Not for me, but for common sense. Professional careers are elective. We are a serious and ethical institution. She failed repeatedly. Or did you fail her? She refused to fix it. Or maybe she refused to redo what she had already done and repay for what she already paid for. She waited years. Are you trying to profit on your own delay you've caused her? Now she's demanding something she didn't earn. Then why does she have a completed transcript and student loan debt? We simply followed a standard arbitration process, guys. This isn't a gym membership. This is literally somebody's livelihood. Someone unsafe is trying to become a nurse. Really? Because you trained her. What does that say about you? She didn't even know her claims until she got a lawyer. Be so for real. It's my toy and she took it from me. That's what it sounds like. Are you guys okay? Genuinely. I think we should all take a collective moment to applaud the absolute staggering genius of corporate apologists who love to comment, well, you signed the contract. Truly a legal mastermind at work. Impeccable investigative work. That is fabulous. How did you come up with that? Let's apply that groundbreaking logic to the rest of the world, shall we? Let's say if you buy a ticket for a luxury cruise and halfway across the Atlantic, the captain steals your wallet, kicks you off the boat, and forces you to swim the rest of the way in shark-infested waters where you are gravely outnumbered in the middle of nowhere that you know, but they have the map. They know everything. I suppose you or I would just shrug and say, well, I signed the passenger agreement. My bad. Of course you wouldn't. You would call the police if you could. You would call whoever you needed to get out of there. But when a nursing school locks you in a room for 3 years, drains your bank account, your future bank account, and then changes the graduation rules at the literal 11th hour with an unsupported exit exam, suddenly it's an academic standard. Let's be clear. You signed a contract to be educated professionals just like me. You did not sign a contract to pay, in my case, around $30,000 to be gaslit by people who lock their office doors and treat your future like a bad episode of Hunger Games. They don't want you to read the fine print if you ask me. Because the second you take the red pill and look at the actual legal data, you realize this entire simulation is built on a lie. It's a house of cards. Let's break down the joke they call a curriculum and I call the Jersey College logic. Welcome back to the nursing investigation. Are you dumb or do you think we're dumb? Because Jersey College starts their entire brief by wrapping themselves in a flag of public safety, claiming they're protecting patients from a dangerous, unqualified student, in my observation. Give me a break. Let's look at what they actually put in the print. The college argues, in my observation, the college argues with an unwavering purpose to safeguard patient lives. They have the highest code of ethics you could think of. They claim Clarissa Price failed her final exam 4 separate times, refused free remediation, and waited 5 years to file a lawsuit just to force them to give her a diploma she didn't earn. Are you dumb or do you think we're dumb? Let's highlight some key points. The college operates as a practical nursing program, an LPN to RN program, and then an RN program. With that being said, their purpose is unwavering: to equip aspiring nurses with the knowledge and safeguard the lives of their patients. Ms. Price enrolled, but repeatedly failed to demonstrate the required competence and achieve a passing grade despite 4 separate attempts. Price filed a pro se lawsuit against the college demanding issuance of her diploma. Okay, I see you. Let's reel it in a little bit. Notice how they immediately frame the student as a public health threat to win emotional points with the judges. You trained her. It's your program. It's your curriculum. If she should not be a nurse, where is the evidence supporting this? Because I haven't seen it. An exit exam, literally, legally, academically, cannot determine competency. It is not accredited by any body. It is not, no board of nursing requires it to become a nurse. It is not the NCLEX. Only the NCLEX can determine competency. And to say a student failed an exit exam, let's dive in deeper for that. If a student fails an exit exam 4 times, I think we need to look at the curriculum, the grading software, and the fairness of the exit testing, not just blame the student. When she's literally walking into exams, she had no idea which one she was taking, that she was going to be timed, that she was not prepared with study material to take these exams, when literally her whole education was relying on said exams. And cohorts before her had 5 chances. People after her got away with a few percent less percentage points that were a little higher above her, but those students were allowed to pass. So how can you say Ms. Price failed her exams when you let students go ahead and take their NCLEX and graduate who didn't even meet the original benchmark themselves? Why are we picking and choosing what students can go and take their NCLEX and which ones cannot? If Ms. Price was so incompetent, why doesn't all nursing schools require exit exams to take their NCLEX? Not only that, but how come across the entire United States, there is not one grade that specifies a passing grade for an exit exam? Every school has a different benchmark, and sometimes student per student, like in my experience, could have separate benchmarks they have to meet. How is that right? Not even to mention these scores on these exit exams aren't like a grade like an A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No. It determines your predictability. So they're trying to say it proves competency. It's literally predictability. Literally, it cannot determine competency. If it could, it would be required and called the NCLEX. I digress. Calling a student's legal fight, forcing them to issue a degree, it completely invalidates legitimate student grievances that your own contract allows. Oh, we also didn't mention taking these exams were considered successful completion in the original contract. It wasn't until the syllabus came into play, by the way, there was a scoreboard, just to let you know. Not to mention, Price didn't necessarily fail anything like we talked about. So I find this highly debatable. Not to mention, you guys, these scores, what they're not telling the appellate court is that these scores, not only do they not prove competency, but none of my scores indicated I was going to bomb the NCLEX. Actually, quite the opposite. It proved I was going to pass the NCLEX. I just didn't have the highest probability of doing so. I really want to see the methodology that's used behind grading these exams. And I've never heard somebody say the NCLEX was harder than the exit exam. So sit with that. Or that questions would be thrown out. Literally, I could sit here and think of so many things that make taking this exam for the average person disproportionate. So I don't think you want to I really don't think you want me to continue on how unfair it really felt, because it feels like I was set up to fail. I feel like there's a bigger story here. They expect us to believe that in a room full of eager, stressed out nursing students signing sets of paperwork at a mandatory orientation session are making a perfectly balanced, voluntary business deal. It's completely ridiculous. The college asserts, in my observation, that their arbitration clause is a standard, non-controversial procedure. They claim that because the campus director allegedly projected the terms on big TV screens, read them out loud like a story, and gave students a 2-week window to withdraw from the program. The agreement was fully understood and mutually agreed upon. Let's highlight some key lines, shall we? And I quote, "That provision is prominently disclosed to every student and carefully explained in the mandatory orientation program," end quote. And I quote, "One signed copy was collected by the college for its records at the end of the session," end quote. And I quote, "A Jersey College campus director reviewed the enrollment agreement terms in detail by projecting and displaying them on a large television monitors and highlighting, reading aloud, and explaining key sections," end quote. From my perspective, pushing a 6-page legal document onto a student during a high-stress orientation session is a standard high-pressure sales tactic. Did you guys know I had the original contract and then the syllabus after that? When I had my original contract, I was in an office with the admissions representative and I had to sign that contract to be allowed to proceed to orientation. I was not getting any money back, anything I invested up to that point. If I did not sign that contract, I could not go to orientation. And if I did not sign the contract in orientation, I would lose my spot in the program. I would not be refunded anything. There was no 2-week take-home period. If there was, why isn't it in the contract? Projecting your legal jargon onto a television screen as if it was some sort of profound movie premiere with employees on payroll co-signing your claims does not equal true informed consent. So they remember every detail from my orientation. That's actually amazing. That is spectacular. That is impeccable. Students have already paid deposits, taken entrance exams, planned their lives around this start date for months. They're under immense economic and social pressure to sign right then and there before actually getting into orientation with the class and going through the syllabus word by word. Mind you, we didn't even go through it word by word. We were only in there not for very long at all. We had to go through the syllabus, meet the teachers, do the tour of the school, get our uniforms, get our books, etc. There was no time to divulge this contract because if you ask me, we were never supposed to. When it comes to the constitutional rights of all this, this is where they get me. Look at the sheer audacity of this section. The college literally types out in all capital letters that you are waiving your constitutional right to a jury trial and that they complain that the trial court was being radical for trying to protect the student from my observation. So let's read their own bold text, not my interpretation. It looks like the college argues that the trial court made an unprecedented error by striking down the arbitration agreement. They defend the clause, stating that it clearly notes in all caps that students give up their right to a jury trial, discovery, or class actions, and that this is the standard for higher education. Let's highlight some key lines. Quote, neither party will have the right to a jury trial, to engage in discovery, or otherwise to litigate the dispute or claim in any court, end quote. Quote, further, I understand that I will not have the right to participate as a representative or member of any class claimants, end quote. From my perspective, the fact that they even had to put that in screaming capital letters proves how severe of a right they are stripping away from students. They admit in plain English that rights available in court may not be available to you in arbitration, and I want you to remember this. This closed-door system shields corporate nursing schools from public accountability, keeping systemic grading or administrative issues completely hidden from future students. Quote, under the trial court's unprecedented reasoning, it would be eviscerating arbitration in post-secondary education, end quote.
Public. And that is the perfect sentencing, by the way, for a narcissist who thinks that power and money is what wins the game. Like, I just have the connections. It is reminiscent of, I feel like, the harassment that I have gone through privately with the Daily Wire throughout the court system, that now I'm actually kind of happy some of this is spilling into public because it matters for the public to see it. It matters. This is why arbitration court, I think, should be illegal. I think it should be illegal. It allows abuses to take place that would not otherwise take place were things happening in the public. And
let's stop right there, because that is the most lazy, intellectually bankrupt argument I have ever heard in my life. So ultimately, will you sign the contract? Is that how we define ethics now? Let's talk about what the contract really is. Let's talk about what arbitration really is. A contract is a two-way street built on a foundation of expectation of good faith. I sign a contract to pay an exorbitant amount of money in tuition in exchange for my education and entrance into the professional clinical training, and reasonable institutional support so I could sit for my NCLEX and become a nurse. I held up my end of the bargain. I did everything the Board of Nursing requires me to do to sit for my NCLEX. My tuition checks have also cleared. My attendance was flawless. There was no background check keeping me from becoming a nurse. I pulled the all-nighters. I did what I was supposed to do. But what did the institution do? They took my money, all of it. They waited until the literal 11th hour, changed the graduation rubrics, dropped an unweighted, unsupported exit exam track, locked their office doors, and ghosted me is what it feels like to me. That is what it looks like to me. So do not come to me with your corporate apologist nonsense about a signature on a piece of paper. If I hire a contractor to build a house, sign the contract, pay him up front, and he walks away after only laying the foundation, leaving me out in the cold with no roof, no sane person on earth would look at me and say, well, you signed the contract. They would look at the contractor and call him what he is, a thief. When a nursing school uses slick, predatory marketing to harvest human batteries for tuition cash, they intentionally purge at the finish line just to artificially inflate their Board of Nursing passing statistics. They are the ones who breached the contract, not the student. The contract itself did not fail, the institution did. And it's about time we stop gaslighting desperate nursing students and adding to a nursing shortage and start holding these corrupt corporate machines accountable, some critics like myself would argue. Then we get into the hypocrisy of the whole defamation lawsuit. This is the ultimate peak of corporate hypocrisy. Jersey College ran straight into a public courtroom to slap an injunction on me to shut me up. This is the ultimate peak of corporate hypocrisy. Jersey College ran straight to a public courtroom to slap an injunction on me to shut me up on social media. But the second I wanted to use that same courtroom to get justice, suddenly they say, oh no, court is banned. You can't do that. Only we can do that. We have to go to private arbitration now. You can't have it both ways. And my observation, it looks like Jersey College claims they did not want to waive their right to arbitrate, yet they argue that filing an emergency order to show cause and a public lawsuit to stop me from posting defamatory social media reviews was a completely separate matter and doesn't forfeit their right to force my academic claims out of court. First of all, my claims have nothing to do with academics. Catch this. This is legal framing at its finest as well. What it looks like to me, they're trying to argue at the appellate court that this matter should be deferred to the school for academic deference, as if I failed an actual course that was needed to graduate. I'm not concerned about the transcript as far as academically. I'm concerned with the transcript as far as my degree earned and the date, that conferral date is not on there. The actual administrative duty and that administrative duty leading to my verification to the Board of Nursing to get my ATT to sit for my NCLEX. That is what I'm arguing, but the legal framing here is chalking it up to academic failure, which did not happen. Here's some highlighted key lines for you. Quote, Price began posting defamatory, false, and misleading statements about Jersey College on social media. Jersey College filed an order to show cause seeking preliminary injunctive relief, end quote. Quote, 2-week review, end quote. Quote, The trial court found that Jersey College waived its right to arbitrate by seeking preliminary injunctive relief in court in a separate action, end quote. Quote, by penalizing Jersey College for exercising a unanimously recognized right, the trial court's ruling upends well-settled law, end quote. From my perspective, I think from my perspective and what I see in my observation is the college weaponized the public court system to issue an emergency order and silence a student for speaking out about her experience online. Also, I ask, how did I have a 2-week review period if it's not even in the contract? Also, if I had to sign that day to move forward or I would lose my spot, the math isn't mathing. I feel like they're girl mathing it. I like it, but at the same time, it doesn't apply to you, Ken. This isn't Ken's dream house. This is Barbie's dream house. They utilized the speed of power of a real judge when it benefited their corporate reputation. Forcing a student into a quiet, private arbitration while using the heavy hand of public courts against her shows a massive disparity and institutional power. We can do what we want, but you can't do what you want, and the power imbalance in this is going to make it work in our favor. That is what it looks like to me. I just honestly don't know how you treat people like that, and not even just me. God knows how many others that you would just take their livelihoods away from them. And you can just go home to your nice home, your nice cars, your family. And you get nothing taken away from you. Stepping on the backs of people like me to get ahead. Like, how do you sleep at night? How is that okay in your mind? Ultimately, this is what I came to the conclusion of. Nonprofit nursing schools expect you to look at a multi-page legal document at a young age, shrug your shoulders, and just say, I trust you. Well, I guess those are just the rules. You know better than me, so I'll do what you tell me to do. No, they're not just the rules. This is a calculated legal trap designed to strip you of your constitutional rights before you even step foot inside a classroom. So let's talk about what you actually need to learn from this disaster of mine. This is also going to go hand in hand with some questions and comments I had about the legal part of this journey, so I'll incorporate those now too. So when people say rules are rules, or we can't, bend the rules for a few, we can't lower what we expect of nursing students. We can't lower the bar for them. If you think a situation like this is lowering the bar, you completely misinterpret what the term justice actually means. When an institution tells you this is just our standard policy, this is how we've always done it, this is how we wrote the rules, this is our school, they're weaponizing compliance to make you compliant. The lesson here is a contract is a business negotiation. It doesn't have to be 100% equal, but you both have to get something out of it. It has to be fair. It has to be created in good faith. It's not an absolute law. If a school forces you to sign away your right to a jury trial just to learn how to pass NCLEX, they're prioritizing their legal protection over your education, and that's the red flag. So, stop treating enrollment agreements like a terms of service update on your phone. Read the fine print before you sign away any of your power, especially before you go to school, you buy a house, you buy a car. Get the contracts in advance, have somebody look at them, know what you're doing. Never, just do things in the moment and expect the person across the table has your best interest. Because the truth about private arbitration is it's not always fair. It's not neutral ground. It is a closed door system where decisions are hidden from the public eye. If a nursing school faces systemic issues like faculty grading software, unfair curriculum changes, abusive instructors, etc., arbitration ensures that every student has to fight them alone, in secret. It completely destroys your right to a class action lawsuit. So, look for schools who do not require mandatory arbitration clauses or opt out of it. If they refuse to educate you without stripping your constitutional rights, that's a massive red flag. And I also want you to learn from all this the truth, the evidence, and legal framing. Because it's not really about he said, she said, who presents the most evidence. Court is about framing. It's not always about the truth. Even I feel like I'm telling the truth of what happened. For example, hypothetically speaking, say the party across from me that I'm fighting against isn't telling the truth. Did you know they're legally protected to reframe the story in their way that sheds the best light on them? Look at how Jersey College framed this student, like myself. Look at how Jersey College frames me. Somebody who literally did nothing but what they asked, paid them, kept her mouth shut for years, tried to handle it privately. That's what they do to a single mom, somebody with kids, somebody who literally has nothing, somebody who's just an average person in the world. When they have everything, like, that just kind of makes me feel icky. I don't like people taking advantage of people who have less than them. It just doesn't feel right. They didn't just say she failed an exit exam. They claimed they were safeguarding the public health from me. They claimed I was incompetent. They slapped an injunction on me. They sued me. Who does that? The lesson here, I think, institutions, they use high-level, expensive lawyers, emotional framing to make students look dangerous and vindictive. They do this so judges and observers look at the student as a threat rather than a victim of institutional failure. So, when analyzing your own issues with a program, I would document everything objectively. You don't have to let them control the narrative. Counter their emotional framing with cold, hard facts, emails, and syllabus timelines. The weaponization of the courts is something that hits me really hard. Like, we can take you to court, but you can't take us to court. We can embarrass you in public, but you can't embarrass us in public. We can take all your money and leave you with nothing, but you can't complain about it. The reality of this looks like the school ran to a public court to sue me for defamation over social media posts, then claimed I shouldn't be allowed in the same court to sue them for my diploma and verification. I think the lesson here is corporate entities will use the law as a shield for themselves and a sword against you. They want the freedom of public courts to protect their reputation, but they want you trapped in private rooms where no one can hear you scream. I think you should be incredibly careful with what you post online while actively dealing with a school dispute. My situation's a little different. It's evolved, and there's reasons why I can and am doing what I'm doing. And it's not easy. I don't recommend it without legal guidance. Because from my observations, they will look for any excuse to slap you with a defamation suit, to drain your bank account, and silence your investigation, even though you did nothing but do what you were supposed to do and just want to live a decent life and take care of yourself. At the end of the day, you guys, I don't think this isn't just about me or nursing students or one college. This is about a system that expects you to sit down, shut up, and accept whatever contract and rules they slide across the table. Protect your peace, protect your career, and most importantly, protect your rights, because nobody's going to do it for you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit subscribe to show your support, and I'll see you in the next investigation. Bye, guys.